Welcome back to the series where I take a look at BesiegeBots fights in detail and try to explain the driving and the design behind the robots. This time we have a match from Heavyweight Havoc 2023. It is a finals fight actually between these two robots. Our finals are always best of 3, so you have to win 2 fights to win the tournament. In the red corner we have Forklift's Revenge 5, incredible name, decent robot. In the blue corner we have Harp, less incredible name, great robot. These two are also 4-wheel drive vertical spinners, just like in the last episode with Shamha and Eclipse. You can see that these robots look quite different from the ones in that episode. That is what 2 years of progress does in BesiegeBots. Everything just looks so different. Okay, enough with the intro, let's just get right into this. Our fight is starting. Actually, right before we do, why is my spacebar skipping forward? I do not understand. But before we get started, one thing that I do want to note is look at the front of Harp and look at the front of Forklift's Range. Harp is running an anti-horizontal setup. Those are plows. Those are meant to deflect horizontal spinners and tank hits from those. Forklift's Range only had 2 setups in this tournament, being this and an anti-horizontal setup similar-ish to the one that Harp had here, but Forklift's Revenge chose to run this setup. It's less durable, it has no motor guards. Harp's setup does have motor guards. Motor guards are very, very important because vertical spinners have a very easy time hitting other vertical spinners' motors, given that they are not out-diametered completely. So that is an interesting thing here that the team who built Harp will gamble on. They will trust that their robot is more durable and can tank the hits from Forklift's Range. Forklift's Range weapon is not the stronger out of these two bots. It's Harp that has the advantage in firepower, and both bots are spinning up. You could see a little bit of a bounce there. So Harp hit this corner of Forklift's Range and bounced off because it rode up the blades and hit the spin block. There's a big hit right away, and these controls are terrible. Google Drive really needs to figure their stuff out. But there is a hit there, and I'm gonna pause on a frame that it's very visible on. Let me try to find one real quick. Oh, this will work. So what happened there is Forklift's Revenge managed to hit right between the weapon bar of Harp itself and the blocks connecting it to the weapon motor. And Harp's weapon motor is now split in 2. So the right side here is completely disconnected. It is not powering Harp's weapon anymore. It is only the left side that does that. This also has the side effect of Harp is only held together by these blocks here. These 2 wood blocks, rather, right there. So Harp is very flexy because of that. So if you can see, it's flopping around quite a bit. Harp gets back over, so does Forklift's Revenge, but Harp actually gets the angle here, trying to take blades off the front, but they do not succeed in that. There's a big hit. Forklift's Revenge taking some damage. It took a shot directly to its weapon motor there. And as you can see, Forklift's Revenge pursuing, taking a wheel off of Harp. Harp's still trying to self-ride. And there's a hit right there that I want to pause on. There. So Forklift's Revenge has these blades. These blades are to feed opponents up and then into the weapon. So the weapon will have a bit of a less hard time getting hit on the opponent. But a hit like this, what happens is the weapon is coming up like this. And this is the point where it catches Harp, since Harp is going through the air trying to get back over on its wheels. But it kind of lands, and the weapon comes back around and hits Harp there. That's not really good. It puts a lot of stress on these weapon motors. And Forklift's Revenge has already taken damage to the right side. I believe this is the wheel that fell off from the weapon motor. That is what we call a counter gyro. I talked about this in the previous episode and what it does, but it has taken some damage. Also, some of the hinges, steering hinges, rather, on Forklift Ranch have broken off, which those are pretty much considered ablative armor. It just means that if it gets hit, it's not that big of a problem. If it breaks, it's there to protect what's behind it. But of course, that we only really realize with more and more time that that's what they function as. At this time, I believe that the consensus was that the steering hinges, the most important job that they have is to connect the weapon back to the weapon motor in a more reinforced way. This is building theory, not really driving theory. I could talk a lot about that in its own separate video, but for now we are here for the driving. So let's continue the fight. And Forklift Ranch wins that exchange. Harp hitting the wall but not going out of the arena. Harp upside down again. Forklift Ranch decides to wait here for Harp to try and get back over and away from the spikes, and they do. But Harp spins down, spins back up again. And Forklift Ranch, you can see the moves that they are trying to do. So the moves that Forklift Ranch is doing here, approaching Harp, turns, angles like that. So this is Harp's front, and its weapon is right about here. So this is not to scale. Actually, let me redo that real quick. There we go. That's a lot better. So Forklift Ranch is doing this kind of move. And what happened there was they got a pop on this side. Harp went up and off balance. Forklift Ranch could have chosen to keep pushing this way, but they stopped where they got that hit, turned a little bit to the left, and Harp is already more back here because of the hit. Forklift Ranch chose to go for this corner instead. So it's showing a bit of restraint here. There are a lot of drivers who, the second they get a hit that is advantageous to them, they will immediately follow up on that and try to get as many hits as they can. This is a good approach, but only if you can trust your robot's durability to not fail you, and your own driving that you can keep getting those hits. Sometimes people tend to think that this is, they're just robots, they're being thrown around. Well, what's happening? It's all luck, That could not be further from the truth. Every single hit that happens here could be controlled. I'm not going to say it was controlled, because we don't know what goes on in the heads of the drivers, right? But the better drivers, they will find a way to aim these hits. So, for example, Forklift Ranch here could find a way to aim for this second wheel on this right side. But let's see what will happen. Since Harp has lost another exchange here. I hit my microphone, sorry about that. Harp has lost another exchange here. And there's a big hit. So the weapon motor on Forklift Ranch took a lot of stress from that hit, with Harp's weapon landing directly on it while still spinning. That's exactly what I mean with the diagram that I drew earlier. And there's a big weapon-on-weapon exchange there. Weapon-on-weapon exchanges are very, very dangerous in vertical spinners. It often favors the one with the heavier weapon, and that would be Harp in this case. Heavier weapon and more bite. The armor panels that Harp uses for its weapon, these things, do get a lot of bite. And it's also, they are almost the identical diameter, which really does amplify this. So the boss with the heavier weapon and better bite will get the better of these exchanges. Of course, it also doesn't hurt to have guarded weapon motor. Harp has exactly that. Its weapon motor is guarded. Harp is running away, trying to get an angle, trying to reverse, but gets caught on the blade of Forklift's Revenge. And there's another big hit, and that is also a very terrifying thing for Forklift's Revenge. So the bar is coming around like this, gets Harp stuck between this, and keeps trying to spin the bar. So if the bar keeps trying to spin, but there's a whole robot in the way, it's going to put a lot of stress on the weapon motors, which could just break. Vertical spinner versus vertical spinner matches, whoever loses their weapon motor first completely loses the fight. Weapon motors have gotten so reliable that even if you have one side spinning, that's a lot better than having no side spinning. But Forklift Ranch spins back up, and that's another very stressful hit on the weapon motor. As you can see, this was the big hit, and then the hit comes right here. As you can see, the weapon bar literally stopped due to the stress that was exerted onto it due to Harp landing on it. Now Harp recovering once again, and there's a big shot right there. I want to pause on that hit. As you can see, recovers, aims for this side, gets a huge hit, and Forklift's Revenge is done. The weapon is not spinning anymore. It's all over. It can still drive, but Harp has a lot of area to get bite on, and Harp's weapon bar is designed very, very well to get that bite. Of course, it throws itself around too, but Forklift's Revenge still is trying to stay on its wheels and maybe push Harp around. Maybe try to push it into the pit, but Forklift's Revenge cannot recover if it gets upside down. So Harp only really needs one good hit and takes the wheel off too, and that's the hit. Forklift's Revenge cannot move like that. It's all over. Harp wins the first fight of this match. So there's a lot of things that happened. Very, very quick reversal of the fight in one hit. So there was excellent driving by Harp there. The weapon's already down here. It's gonna come after the set. There. So he's lining it up. Forklift's Revenge is approaching. Harp is lined up like this. All Harp really needs to do is pivot to hit the weapon motor. And that's exactly what they do. That slight turn is all it took for Harp to turn the fight. So there's a lot of depth behind each of these fights. Harp did an excellent job here, getting that one hit that turns the fight. So this was fight 1. And this, despite it being labeled fight 3, this is actually fight number 2. So they labeled it differently. But this was the fight that happened in order. Let's not jump the start. Okay, here we go. Second fight of the finals match. Forklift's Revenge has to win this to get to the third fight. And as you can see, Forklift's Revenge driving and reversing that. Good pop there by Forklift's Revenge, keeping Harp off balance, and there's a wheel off of Harp right there. And that is what I meant. The better drivers will aim. Forklift's Revenge knew that Harp was going to land, so it did almost a U-turn to hit that wheel of Harp. That was a conscious decision from the driver, I believe. But there is one thing that Forklift's Revenge had to learn from the previous fight. Do not send it too hard. If you send it too hard, you put way too much risk on your own robot, especially if your weapon is less durable than your opponent's. There's a big hit once again. Harp is upside down, and there Forklift's Revenge makes a mistake actually. As you can see, runs directly into Harp and gets and tries to take this weapon on weapon challenge. Harp is spinning this way. Forklift's Revenge is spinning this way. So they are not going to spin against each other, but Harp could very easily land a shot on one of these weapon motors with its bar that breaks it. Same goes for Forklift's Revenge really, but Harp is more durable than Forklift's Revenge. So if that were to happen, it would be Harp who wins that. Forklift's Revenge stops spinning its weapon immediately, realizing that that's how they managed to lose last fight. They took a lot of hits, but there once again, Forklift's Revenge, they take a very risky exchange here. So if a vertical spinner is spinning like this, and another vertical spinner is upside down, spinning like this, what happens? They're spinning opposite directions here. No, they're spinning the same direction here. Yeah, they're spinning the same direction here. So this one is still planted to the ground. This one is upside down, only on 2 wheels. That's what happened with Harp there. What happens is, here comes Forklift's Revenge's bar. I'm not going to draw it exactly like it is, but maybe just try to illustrate. And here comes Harp's weapon bar, like this. When they collide, the bot that's more planted to the ground, in this case Forklift's Revenge, stays on the ground, and Harp gets absolutely sent out of frame even. And landing on their back wheels are very durable, but Forklift's Revenge is already back pursuing. And this was a really nice move by Forklift's Revenge there. Getting underneath, but turning around the grabber chain here of Harp. So they pivot around that grabber chain to get hits on the side of Harp. And Harp has no choice but to run into this wall here. They have nowhere to go. They can't reverse because Forklift's Revenge is pushing them from the side. They can still move forward. They can't turn because there's a wall on one of their sides and there's Forklift's Revenge on the other. And Forklift's Revenge removes a back wheel. Back wheels are more important for vertical spinners than front wheels. And there's another big hit, and Forklift's Revenge taking its time there to not just rush in immediately. And Forklift's Revenge really trying to go for those outer plows, and that's exactly what they are doing here. Gets a hit on that, reverses a little bit. Reversing, the driver of Forklift's Revenge here, what they realize is that they need to reverse sometimes. And there's a big hit, throwing Harp into the wall. Harp losing pieces, I believe, out of their weapon motor there. And the other back wheel goes off. That was just a clean hit. Harp is bouncing a lot, having to self-ride. Forklift's Revenge only went in for a hit that they knew wouldn't stress their motors out too much. Harp has lost 2 of its back wheels. Harp is struggling to move. Only 1 wheel left actually on Harp. And now it's Forklift's Revenge pushing. They only have 1 wheel. Harp is struggling. They have their weapon, but if Forklift's Revenge plays this correctly, no chance that they lose this. And there's a big hit on the back chassis of Harp. And Forklift's Revenge actually reversing, trying to get another hit on the back of Harp, avoiding that front of Harp. And they pivot around and they get that hit. I want to show you that hit again. So they don't want to go weapon on weapon. They are scared of that weapon. And they pivot around and they see the opportunity to send it, and that's exactly what they do. And Harp trying to self-ride combined with that hit from Forklift's Revenge, sending them very high. Forklift's Revenge is aiming for that last wheel. They miss it. They hit the front though, which is still not a bad exchange for them. And that was a very, very risky hit, but that was very difficult to tell how risky it was going to be. So as you can see, it lines up perfectly, but it pulls Forklift's Revenge. It gets what's called an overbite on the back chassis of Harp. As you can see, the weapon stops completely, spins back up again, and the 2 weapons intersect a little bit, and launching forwards is Forklift's Revenge. Harp struggling to start right there. There's a big hit, trying to throw Harp into the pit there. Harp has taken some damage to the weapon motor in that big exchange, I believe, as well. And Forklift's Revenge is really just hanging back here. They could be going in for a hit here, but they're just not doing that. They're letting Harp try to get back over, and that is the last wheel removed. Very measured fight, but still Forklift's Revenge had moments that they did not need to engage on, that they took and sort of gambled on the fact that the robot will hold up. That is the second fight of the finals. It is 1-1, and the fight has to go to a third, which we do have right here. This is the fight that decides everything. The winner of this fight wins the tournament. It's all over. After this fight, no more. The tournament's done. Winner takes all. Harp actually changed setup for this third fight, as you can see. Harp now has blades as well. The strengths of Forklift's Revenge were the fact that it's very planted to the floor, and its blades are super good at wedging. Its weapon was not the strongest, but it was strong enough. Its drive was not the fastest, but it was enough to get angles that it needed to get in order to pull off maneuvers like what I described to you in the previous fight. Let's get our last fight here. It's only 2.5 minutes. So somebody will win this tournament by knockout or pit. Let's see who it will be. Oh, I already know the results, of course, but I got to keep the suspense. Forklift Syringe really likes starting by running over those spikes. And as you can see immediately, Forklift Syringe getting underneath there, sort of tangled with the blades of Harp. And Harp lost the weapon motor early once again. Forklift Syringe with a big hit right here into that right side again. That's the exact same thing that happened in the first fight. They got the hit into that right side weapon motor, but they just couldn't keep up with Harp for the rest of the fight. Forklift Syringe getting to the side here, and they could have pushed there, but they stopped. And that allowed them to just let Harp run into the spikes. As you can see, Harp gets stuck in the spikes. Forklift Syringe is coming from the side, using those blades to keep Harp oriented towards the spikes. And there's a big hit. Harp having to recover. Forklift Syringe sees that there is no space for Harp to recover. As you can see, it lands. And the driver here for Forklift Syringe has to keep track. How fast can Harp turn? How much space does Harp have here? Can he just run forwards? Does he recover in time? Is his weapon still spinning? But Forklift Syringe does see that Harp simply doesn't have the time to recover. So it's time to go for a hit. And that's exactly what they do. It's a very small hit, but it keeps Harp upside down, allowing them to go in for a hit, immediately reversing. Immediately. Getting that wheel and immediately backing away from the wall. If Forklift Syringe kept pushing there, what would have happened is Forklift Syringe would have been around here, and Harp's weapon would have landed shots on Forklift Syringe, which they want to avoid. Because that's exactly what happened. They took too many shots in the first fight, and eventually their weapon ended up just completely breaking. That is exactly what they want to avoid. So they immediately reverse, and they are just slowly pursuing. Harp trying to get an angle, ending up on the spikes. Harp is not very drivable due to that loss of that back wheel and the fact that the weapon's broken. And there's another hit that Forklift Syringe didn't necessarily need to take, but it was a better exchange for them. They managed to get underneath the right side of Harp, left side of Harp, sorry. Managed to get underneath the left side of Harp with their right side, getting a small pop, and then let's see that hit one more time. So gets underneath the left, pops it up, and then gets a hit on the right side of Harp as a follow-up, throwing Harp. So if you get underneath another robot and you're going to weapon, you already have a lot better of a chance at winning that weapon on weapon, since your body's planted to the ground. The other one is susceptible to your weapon a lot more than you are to theirs. So Harp only really got glancing blows on the front of Forklift Syringe, just a weapon. And there's another hit. Harp has lost his weapon, as you can see. Good pop. And Forklift Syringe knew exactly that they needed to go in. Harp's side was off the ground, as you can see. And that is angling for this side, gets Harp off balance, and they have no control here. So Forklift Syringe, the driver, saw that Harp will be moving in a certain way through the air, and Forklift Syringe needed to go in for this hit. And that's exactly what they did. You can see Forklift Syringe adjusting a tiny bit. Right there. You can see Forklift Syringe adjusting just a little bit, giving them the best chance to go for that hit. And Harp's weapon is gone. It is out of their robot. Forklift Syringe right there, avoiding a hit that would put a lot of stress on their weapon motor. But Harp is upside down. They can barely drive. The second wheel is off. Another hit. And Harp is in the pit. It's all over. Forklift Syringe, the champion of Heavyweight Havoc 2023 with that hit. A lot of interesting driving in this match from both halves. Harp's strategy was honestly a very sensible strategy because at this time in BesiegeBots, we still haven't figured out how to do proper anti-vert setups. This time in BesiegeBots, we still had stronger weapon wins. The comparison I like to make to IRA robots is Harp is quite a bit like Witch Doctor in this fight. They rely on their weapon. Witch Doctor, that's exactly what they did for 7 seasons. No forks, only weapon. Their weapon, very strong, but when their weapon broke, it was all over for them. And that's something similar that happened in this match with Harp as well. Harp lost its weapon here completely, but they lost the fight due to that. And in the first fight, Harp only lost 1/2 of their weapon. They could recover from that. They managed to recover from that. They landed the one hit that they needed to do. And the driver for Harp is really an incredible driver. I mean, to land that hit, so many other drivers would have not been able to get that. The driver behind Forklift Ranch, this was their first ever finals appearance. And as, you know, being in the finals must be a very, very stressful thing. Well, I would know. I was the driver for Forklift Ranch. But it is a very, very stressful thing. And, of course, you know, it's a game. People say, oh, don't take it so serious. It's just a game. I do agree with that. But, I mean, still. Where's the fun if you don't take anything seriously? Not too seriously. Just a little bit. You know, just a tiny bit. No need to put your life's worth on the line here. But, I mean, honestly, that was an excellent drive from both teams. And that is Forklift Ranch's first ever tournament win. That's the team's first ever tournament win as well, Team Night Party. And I mean, a lot of interesting driving bits in this fight, and I feel all 3 of these fights would deserve their own video, but it is what it is. I think that should be it for this one. Goodbye.